All right, so today I'm going to be showing you my Trekked Travel Atlas app. This is an app that I built with some friends of mine in mind. I have a lot of friends that enjoy going to national parks, and maybe this is yourself. And I wanted to create an app that would be kind of like an atlas for them, a travel atlas per se, or a travel journal. And the purpose of this app is not only to chronicle where you've been in terms of national parks or any parks for that matter, but to plan where you want to go. And that's kind of what an atlas does. It shows us the way to where we want to go. And so Trekked is a travel atlas that will show you all of the national parks that you've been to and keep track of where you want to go. It will also give you ways to plan routes to visit for those national parks using Google Maps API and the National Park Service API, which gives us a huge influx of data that allows us to see all the parks, to see how much it costs to get into a particular park, what sorts of attractions they have there, their hours of operation, what kind of weather that they're expecting, just some really, really great data. And so I want to walk you through kind of the pre-alpha version of this app as it stands. And so basically the MVP for this app was to allow a user to log in, to navigate through all of the national parks that are available to us in the United States, and to be able to select parks that they visited, select parks that they want to visit, and then to create a trip using Google Maps. So enter in a beginning and an origin and a destination, and have waypoints in between that would be the national parks you want to visit along your road trip. So the first feature I want to show you here is just creating a new user. I've created several new users at this point, so you're going to see a lot of numbers at the end of some of these names, but I'm going to create Sam Flynn 4. I think that's still available. The password that we enter in here has to be unique, and it has to match in each line. The email, I don't think the email has to be unique. I could be wrong there, but we're just going to do samflynn4@gmail.com. Actually, I do believe this has to be unique. And then we're going to enter a profile picture using a URL. Now, ideally, we will change this to an upload feature. Once the account is created, you'll be able to upload a picture of yourself. But for now, this is just where we're at. So the home page, aka dashboard, will have a lot more information as you use the app more and the app grows. But for now, it's going to have a list of parks that are available for you to try out. Every time you revisit this page, it's going to give you a new park to visit. And so that will be available to you. It's also going to give you some badges, and the badges will display your achievements along the way. So it's going to give you the highest achievement that you've been able to pull in based off of the parks that you visited and maybe the attractions. There's also going to be a social aspect to those badges, and I'll go over that more. But inside the dashboard, you have the capability to edit a user. So if I want to change the username, I can do so. If I want to change the email or the profile picture, I can do all that inside of here. I just need to verify with the use of my password, and it will change me to samflynn5. So now I've updated that information there. The next thing I want to show you is the national parks. And what's going to happen is you're going to immediately be taken to a page that lists out all 467 national parks. And this is a lot of data being loaded locally through just a PostgreSQL server on my computer. So the performance isn't perfect. I've got a lot of applications open right now, hence a little lagginess. But for demonstration purposes, I think you get the point. The goal here is for a user to come in on first login and to go ahead and just create a chronicle of all the parks that you've ever visited. And you'll see that each park has a button that says Add to Visited and a button that says Add to Atlas. So I'm going to search for Mammoth Cave because I've been to this park as a kid, and I want to add that to visited parks. And I'm going to clear that out, and we're going to go back to all the parks. It's going to take a moment to refresh because we've got a lot of data here. It's not like hosted on AWS or anything like that, but it is pretty cool. It's pretty dynamic. Um, I want to see some parks in Texas, so I can search specifically in the state of Texas. And what I want to do is just add a few parks that I have not visited yet. All my friends in Texas are going to cringe. I know. I have not been to Big Bend yet, but I plan on getting there. I have been to San Antonio Missions, so I'm going to add that to my visited parks. But I have not been to the Rio Grande Wild and Scenic River. Looks absolutely amazing. So we're going to add that to my atlas. That's where I want to go. Versus the add to visited is where I have been. And so I'll just, for demonstration purposes, add a few more visited parks. Add a few more to my atlas, just so you can see how those populate in other areas. And also, if you wanted to, you could, of course, sort by city and state. Salt Flats, I definitely have not been here, but would like to go. So if I go to my achievements, it's going to list out all of the parks that I've visited, and it's also going to show me the badges that I've earned based off of like a class or a scoring system that we give each user, dependent upon the number of parks that you visited or the attractions that you visited at each individual park. And so the first 3 badges are for your first 3 parks. And from there, when you get to your 10th park and your 25th and your 50th, you'll get greater and greater badges. But the social aspect of this will also allow in the future for you to see your friends and their achievements as well. And it just helps you to kind of keep up with each other, have some playful fun and some competition as you work towards visiting all these national parks. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you the atlas. And again, these are all the parks that I want to visit but have not visited yet. And so once I visit Big Bend, I'll come in here and I'll be able to remove that from my atlas, just like these other ones. And I would then come over to parks. And this is a little bit of a roundabout way to do this. We'll make this more streamlined in the future. But for now, if I type in Big Bend, I can go ahead and add to visited parks because now, quote unquote, I have been there. And I go to my achievements, and now Big Bend National Park is there. So that's kind of the system for getting stuff into your atlas, getting things into your visited parks. The next thing I want to show you is actually creating a trip, and this is the hardest thing we've had to do. You'll notice there just a little blip in the code. Google Maps is quite hard to integrate, and you know, we're not perfect, but we're getting there. We're working out some bugs. We're going to try some new libraries that might integrate a little bit better with Google Maps, but for now, we're using the @React Google Maps library to help us achieve what we've done thus far. So what I want to do is I want to create a trip. And I want to visit my mom for her birthday. It's coming up in June. But I want to visit some national parks along the way. Take a nice little road trip and really just extend out my stay with her on the way there. So what I'm going to do is go down here, make sure I've got the correct dates, which I do not currently. And I want June 21st. There we go. And this is going to be Mom's birthday trip. And what we want, what I want to point out here is when I type something into the origin, you'll notice that this is auto-completing for me. This is the Google Maps Places autocomplete function. This is using several APIs to autocomplete my origin, my destination, and any waypoints that I want to visit along the way. And so this will be invaluable as you see me adding stops. These are going to be the national parks that I want to visit as I make my way from Houston to Sarasota. And so one of the next things we'll add is a feature that displays all of the national parks on the map, so it's a little bit easier for you to see where all of them are located. And you'll be able to click on them and see the information from a more zoomed out position. That way you can kind of gauge where you want to visit. You don't have to zoom all the way in. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I want to visit Davy Crockett National Forest along the way. And I will also visit Ocala National Forest. Now this was going to work just fine because everything is nice and easy. The directions in which I'm flowing, I'm going from west to east. So this is going to be a fairly straightforward route to map out. You see I take my first stop in Davy Crockett National Park, and then I come back down the 10 and I take that across, and then I hit my second waypoint, Ocala National Forest, and then I end in Sarasota, Florida. And so now if I go to my trips, Mom's birthday trip is in there, which is great. Now I want to add one more trip because I want you to see how this trip optimization really works. So if I go in and I create another trip, what's going to happen is I'm going to set a different date. Let's do next week. And I really want to go out of my way here to create a trip that is just really ridiculously unorganized so that we can really plan out our route really well. So I'm going to start out in Houston, which is where I live. But I want to end up in Breckenridge, Colorado. And along the way, I want to visit some national parks. But maybe it's just not along the way. Maybe I want to go to Yellowstone. And then after I go to Yellowstone, I want to visit, let's see, Death Valley. I've always wanted to go to Death Valley. And then from there, I want to get to Breckenridge, Colorado. So we're kind of going way far north, back south, and northeast. And so what's going to happen is Google is going to automatically optimize this trip for us so that we know the best route to take. And so now you can see that even though I listed Death Valley as the second stop on my trip, it's telling me that the best route to take to save the most amount of gas is going to be driving west to visit Death Valley first, then to go to Yellowstone, then to come back to Denver. And if I even wanted, I could have another stop that would be my endpoint and coming all the way back to Houston, which actually makes a lot of sense. It's a big triangle, so we kind of come full circle. So now when I go back to my trips, you'll see those trips are there. I've got both upcoming trips. Once these dates have passed, they'll be in my past trips. And if I log into my home account, my dashboard, now I see the next trip I have scheduled, which is Rocky Mountain High. You'll also notice I have my badges up there. And so that's pretty much it. That is the current app as it stands. Future updates will include a social aspect, so all of a user's friends will be available to them. They will be inside this dashboard so that they can get updates on their friends. We'll build in the capability to post pictures, to geolocate specific routes that you have within a given park. So let's say you visit the Rocky Mountains, you go a little bit off the beaten path, but you want to record that hike. You can actually record that into Google Maps and share that with your friends that aren't able to make it. So the next time they go to the Rocky Mountains, they know a really cool a route to take in the path to hike while they're there. So I'll leave it at that. That is the Trekked Travel Atlas. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll stay tuned for further updates. See you soon.